Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Seed Talk Express podcast with Lisa and Lane. Hi, Lane.
Hi, hello everybody.
We are so happy to bring you this little short information-packed segment. And friends, if you're new here, welcome aboard. We appreciate when you hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends about us. And this podcast is brought to you by thegardenersworkshop.com. Take it away, Lane.
All right. Yes, this is a Seed Talk Express episode, which again, if you're familiar, it's one of our shorter format episodes that we release on Thursdays in between our full-length episodes. And today we're going to be focusing on bicolor sunflowers. We're just going to talk about some of the different varieties, some potential drawbacks to them, and also a new variety that Lisa trialed at the farm this year that she's very excited about. So shall we get started, Lisa?
Yes, let's have a look.
All right. So
shouldn't we tell everybody that's listening that they can watch this over on YouTube, right?
Oh, yes. Good point. You can watch it over on YouTube. And I'm going to put some pictures up right now of some bicolor varieties. And Lisa, why don't you explain to everyone, what do we mean when we're talking about bicolor sunflowers?
So bicolor would indicate that there's more than one color, two colors on the same bloom. And that's a really... it's a nice variation on plain solid colored sunflowers.
Yes. And so what are some of the common varieties, the most popular varieties, and when do you like to have those available to people or to put in your bouquets?
Sure. So we focus basically to have these types of sunflowers to start blooming typically for wherever your region is when fall arrives. So you'll really have to, when you're on the cusp before the leaves start to change, when people start wanting those fall-like colors in their home. Because typically the bicolors are yellow or orange and either red to even dark maroon on them. So they're very fall-like colors. So we usually don't start these colors at all early in the season. It is, the number of days to bloom is typically about 55 to 60. So if we want them for the month of September, mid-September and October, and even into November, we would then be starting them in July and August, depending on the days to bloom. So we'll have them later in the season when people just flip over these colors.
Yes. And up on the screen on YouTube, if you're watching, we have Pro Cut Red Lemon Bicolor, Pro Cut Plum, and Pro Cut Bicolor.
And, even though they might look at a glance very similar, they really are very different when you see them. Their colors, I think it's primarily the main color that's on the flower, like the back color, the yellow or the orange. And, my favorite and the one that we sell a lot of is Pro Cut Plum. And the Pro Cut Bicolor. The Pro Cut Bicolor, I feel like, is the orange with this brush of rust around the center, and the plum has, don't you think the plum's a little bit more yellow more than it is orange?
Yes, I definitely agree with
that. Totally beautiful.
Yeah. So we've just talked about all the good things about these bicolor sunflowers and how pretty they are. There is a little drawback that you might have noticed if you've ever grown these yourself or had them in a bouquet. Can you tell us about that, Lisa?
Sure. In my experience, we grow a lot of the Pro Cut series here. That's the name of a family of sunflowers. And Pro Cuts come in about 12 or 13 different colors, I believe. And these bicolors that we just showed and mentioned, all three of those are Pro Cuts. And we have grown a lot of them. And one of the two major issues that we struggle with is softer necks. And they prematurely drop their petals, meaning, like the oranges and the solid color, most of the solid colors will hold their petals for 10 to 14 days. That is not necessarily true with the bicolors. Usually it's about 7 days and you're done. But people, even in spite of that, they love them so much because they're so different. that they just go with it. So there are drawbacks, but it's part of that hybridizing. I definitely would love to send a note to the hybridizers to say, hey, can we work on that petal retention and stiff neck thing with these bicolors? But I think we found one.
Yes. And I did want to mention, there was a study I found by some researchers at Cornell University, and they actually compared two different cultivars of sunflowers. They compared ProCut Bicolor, which tends to lose its petals a little sooner, and ProCut Yellow Light, which tends to hold on to them for longer. And they studied a region on the flower known as the abscission zone at the base of the petal, which is where the petal actually ends up separating from the plant. Abscission just means something is shedding from the plant, in this case, the petals. And they found that this separation layer actually reached full maturity sooner in the bicolor than in the yellow light, which explains why the petals actually do tend to fall off sooner. So my point being, there is a scientific explanation for why certain varieties of sunflowers actually lose their petals earlier than other varieties. But like Lisa said, there is a new sunflower, a new bicolor that Lisa trialed this year out at the farm, and she has not been able to stop talking about it. So I'm going to let her introduce Marley, and I will throw a picture up on the screen.
Yeah. So Marley came onto my radar, as so often is the case when another grower recommends that they've had an experience, and that would have been Dave Dowling. And Dave shared with me that not only does Marley hold her petals longer, but she's also quick to bloom. I'm always looking at how many days from seed to bloom. As a grower, you're always, you want the least amount of time in the garden. And Marley is 55 to 65 days. So it's right there in the same lane with the ProCut. So we tried it. And friends, I'm telling you, not only is it super beautiful, if you're looking at the picture on YouTube, it's like a buttercream yellow.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's such a variation in the brushing of the, what would you call that color? How would you describe that purple color?
It's almost like a plum. There's some purple to it. It looks hand painted. It really looks
exactly.
Like the petals are hand painted.
It really, I'm really, really pleased with it. So we grew a bunch of them. And so first thing I did is I cut, 15 stems and took them in my house at the normal opening, just as they were starting to lift off of the face, and took them in, and they opened beautifully. There was no, sometimes sunflowers don't open quite as smoothly as others do. That was not the case with these. They opened wide up. And friends, I got like 12 days out of these flowers before one petal fell off. It was really pretty amazing. And every day I walked over to the vase and shook it. Just grabbed the stems and gave them a little shake, because with many of the others, they would have just sprinkled all over your countertop. So we love it. I love it even more because it's pollenless. So it's right. So there's really just no comparison. That Marley will definitely be my go-to bicolor sunflower for sure.
Yes. And we're definitely going to be expanding our lineup of Marley in our shop to include some larger pack sizes. So keep your eye out for that. And thank you so much for joining us on this Seed Talk Express. If you enjoyed this video or listening to this podcast and you wouldn't mind giving us a rating or a review, or on YouTube a like, we would really appreciate it.
Yes, friends, and sharing us with your friends is what helps us the very most. And until we meet again, friends, see you over at thegardenersworkshop.com. Ciao.
Bye.